Good morning. Mrs. Yukiya Amano, Dr. Heinz Fischer, former President of the Republic of Austria, His Excellency Mr. Alexander Schallenberg, Federal Minister for Europe, Integration and Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Austria, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. We gather today to pay tribute to the memory of Director General Yukiya Amano. Director General Amano led the IAEA since December 2009, and his almost 10 years of service leaves a legacy defined by his relentless commitment to ensuring peace and development through non-proliferation and the use of nuclear energy for peaceful purposes. Serving alongside DG Amano was an honor. I was deeply impressed by his brilliant mind and strategic thinking. Yet equally impressive was his kindness and also the way in which he treated everyone with respect and showed interest in different perspectives. DG Amano set the highest standards for himself, and by doing so, he led by example. His professionalism, impartiality, wisdom, and dedication will continue to inspire the work of all of us at the IAEA. So please join me now in a moment of silence in memory of Director General Amano. And now, the video that we will watch captures some of the highlights of DG Amano's decade-long service.
Developing countries are especially interested in how the agency can help them to grow more food, treat cancer, manage water supply, protect the oceans, and monitor climate change. I therefore believe it is time to mainstream the use of peaceful nuclear technology, changing the IAEA's motto to add the word development, make it Atoms for Peace and Development, was part of this effort. Renewal is an extremely important project for the agency, which will benefit all member states. My report on the Fukushima Daiichi accident will provide a solid knowledge base for the future and will help to improve nuclear safety throughout the world. The credibility of the agency is our greatest asset. independent, impartial, and factual safeguards implementation is essential to maintain that credibility. Women are playing essential role in the IAEA. Since I became the Director General, the women's representation in the IAEA improved, but much more needs to be done.
We will now hear a few words from Acting Director General, Mr. Cornel Furuta.
Mrs. Amano, distinguished guests, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. I would like first to acknowledge the presence of former President Fischer of Austria, Austrian Foreign Minister Schallenberg, Deputy Foreign Minister Suzuki of Japan, UNOF Director General Fedotov, CTBTO Executive Secretary Zerbo, the Wassenaar Arrangement Head Griffith, the OECD NEA Director General Magwood, as well as of the senior officials representing other organizations, and also ambassadors and diplomats of our member states. Some present today came from afar, and we appreciate your effort. We are humbled by your solidarity with the IAEA family. It is barely a month since we were shaken by the death of Director General Amano. His loss is irreplaceable. Our deepest sympathy is with you and your family, Mrs. Amano. I hope that the many tributes to Director General Amano from world leaders, from his many friends, and from colleagues who knew him throughout his distinguished career are a source of at least some consolation for you. For those of us who worked with DG Amano, it is still very hard to grasp that the man who led the IAEA so effectively for nearly 10 years is no longer with us. We are greatly saddened by his loss. But we also have many happy memories of the time we worked together. DG Amano was a highly skilled diplomat. We all know that. He possessed absolute integrity. He was a man of shrewd judgment. He had an analytical mind. He was a strategic thinker who thought deeply about issues. And he could see several moves ahead and often correctly anticipated how a complex issue might develop. And that is a rare gift. But the man whom I was privileged to work closely with for 6 years was also warm, quick-witted, and funny. Even at the most stressful moments, he could lighten the atmosphere with a humorous remark. He took his work very seriously indeed, but he did not take himself too seriously. he was without self-importance. DG Amano related easily to people at all levels, regardless of their seniority. Staff remember him queuing for lunch in the cafeteria and chatting to colleagues at the table. He especially liked meeting students and young people, and he often spoke at universities around the world. He enjoyed talking to IAEA interns and made them laugh with self-deprecating stories about his student days and his early career as a young diplomat. I am sure all of us remember him dancing happily at the IAEA ball with you, Mrs. Amano, and what an elegant couple you made. He was fascinated by nuclear science and technology, which he believed could make a great contribution to development. Doctors, engineers, and scientists were often very impressed by the depth of his technical understanding and his wish to learn more. DG Amano believed strongly in the benefits of nuclear science and technology. When he met government leaders, he could explain the great value of nuclear applications with tremendous passion and energy. I remember his eyes lighting up as he saw people taking a real interest in the subject for the first time. He saw an opportunity. The impact of the IAEA's work on ordinary people always came first for DG Amano. He spoke with feeling about meeting farmers and fishermen and cancer patients whose lives had been changed for the better by the IAEA. It was important to him that the agency brought real improvements to people's lives. His decision to change the IAEA motto to Atoms for Peace and Development will be part of his legacy, and ours too. Among DG Amano's many achievements in the last 10 years, I will single out just 3. First, the way he handled the Fukushima Daiichi accident. Despite the immense sadness he felt at the disaster in his homeland caused by the tsunami, he acted quickly to ensure effective international assistance to Japan and convened a ministerial conference which agreed significant enhancements to global nuclear safety. Second, the modernization of the IAEA nuclear applications laboratories at Sebersdorf. This was a project very dear to DG Amano's heart. It was very much his idea, and he worked tirelessly to ensure the necessary funding was raised. The new laboratories now taking shape in Sebersdorf will serve as a monument to his memory. Third, in the area of safeguards and verification, international confidence in the credibility and impartiality of the IAEA safeguards increased further under DG Amano's leadership. During his tenure, the number of additional protocols in force increased from 94 to 134, and that's a major achievement for the agency. On the specific issue of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action on Iran, the agency was not party to the 2015 agreement, but DG Amano's close involvement, often behind the scenes, and his presence at key meetings helped to build confidence among the parties. Mrs. Amano, ladies and gentlemen, today we pay tribute to a great IAEA Director General. We mourn his loss. We miss his leadership and his wise counsel. But amidst the sadness, we are grateful for DG Amano's example of dedicated public service and of a full life well lived. He was proud to lead the agency, proud of its excellent staff, and proud of its ability to make a real and lasting difference to the lives of the people of the world. We, for our part, were proud to have him as our Director General. The IAEA will honor his legacy in the way he would have wished, by remaining an organization of excellence that contributes in a very concrete way to international peace and security and to the well-being and prosperity of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Acting Director General Furuta, for this moving tribute, which reflects the close cooperation with DG Amano over many years. I will now invite Ms. Lina Al-Hadid, Ambassador and Resident Representative of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, to the IAEA and to the Chair of the Board of Governors to please take the floor.
Thank you, Mrs. Hayward. Mrs. Amano, Mr. Cornel Furuta, Acting Director General of the IAEA, Excellency Mr. Heinz Fischer, former President of Austria, Excellency Mr. Alexander Schallenberg, Minister for Europe, Integration and Foreign Affairs of Austria, Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and in particular, the IAEA staff. When the IAEA Board of Governors appointed Ambassador Yukiya Amano as the 5th Director General of the agency in 2009, he was already a skillful and widely respected diplomat, with many years of experience in disarmament and non-proliferation. At that time, and as a candidate for the position of Director General, Mr. Amano had promised to provide strong and effective management, to insist that all safeguards agreements between the agency and its member states should be implemented fully, and to strengthen the delivery of technical cooperation. In nearly 10 years in office, he delivered substantial and concrete achievements in all of these areas. Right from the start, Director General Amano showed strong leadership and demonstrated total commitment to fulfilling the objectives of the IAEA. As chair of the Board of Governors, I greatly valued his wisdom and advice. He respected the prerogatives of member states, but firmly defended the independence of agency staff in fulfilling their mandate. Having been chair of the board himself in 2005, he fully understood the challenges of the position and was generous in sharing his experience. His deep understanding of technical matters and political sensitivities was of great value to me in the fulfillment of my duties. At the special board meeting last month, member states were united in paying tribute to his great diplomatic skill, his professionalism, his determination to deliver the best possible service to member states, and his personal warmth and charm. Mr. Amano worked tirelessly to enhance the services offered by the agency in all areas of its work. In safeguards, as we've already heard, the number of countries with additional protocols in force grew from 94 to 134 during his term of office. Director General Amano made a vital contribution during the negotiations that led to the adoption of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. He firmly believed that the benefits of nuclear power should not be limited to developed countries. He worked hard to ensure that peaceful nuclear science and technology was made available for the benefit of developing countries in human and animal health, food and agriculture, industry, water management, and many other areas. He had a strong personal commitment to improving cancer control in developing countries, which helped to save lives. Until shortly before his death, Mr. Amano was working with his staff on the upcoming scientific forum, which will focus on the IAEA's contribution to cancer control during the last 10 years. The new laboratories at Cybersdorf, which he energetically promoted, will form a major part of his legacy. Director General Amano changed the motto of the agency to Atoms for Peace and Development to better reflect the contribution of the IAEA in assisting countries in the peaceful use of nuclear technology for their development. This motto will always remind us of him. He was keen to see the agency's activities on the ground for himself and to fully understand the needs of member states. He visited as many as 20 to 30 countries every year. My own country, Jordan, was one of the many he visited more than once, and my authorities greatly appreciated his personal interest in helping Jordan to make more use of nuclear science and technology for the benefit of our people. Director General Amano attached great importance to the agency's role in assisting member states in improving nuclear safety and security. After the Fukushima accident, he led the international effort to provide assistance to Japan and actively encouraged member states to learn the essential lessons from that accident. Mr. Amano was an active proponent of the strengthening of nuclear safety standards throughout the world. In nuclear security, his efforts contributed greatly to the entry into force of the amendment to the Convention on the Physical Protection of Nuclear Material. During his term of office, the International Conference on Nuclear Security became recognized as the leading forum for ministers and other high-level representatives of IAEA member states to consider this topic. Member states appreciated Mr. Amano's skillful handling of the IAEA budget and his understanding of the financial constraints many of them faced. He worked hard to ensure that more women were appointed to senior positions in the agency and made visible progress to improving gender balance. Mrs. Amano, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today we mourn with profound sadness the untimely loss of a superb international servant, civil servant, and a great, kind, and decent man. I express my deepest sympathy to you, Mrs. Amano. I sincerely hope that you will get a chance to see, view, or read the statements made by member states in tribute to your husband in the board meeting last month. We heard over 90 beautifully written statements that show not just an appreciation for his admirable professionalism, but his genuine affection for him personally, including his lack of pomposity, the twinkle in his eye, and his cheeky sense of humor. I also offer my condolences to Mr. Amano's extended family, to the IAEA staff, and the government of Japan and its people. His remarkable legacy will continue to inspire IAEA member states and the agency staff as we all work together to implement our Atoms for Peace and Development mandate in the years to come. Director General Yukiya Amano had a great impact in the world. We are grateful for his commitment and dedication to improving the well-being of humankind. Mr. Amano was an outstanding professional and an exceptional human being. We miss him. May his soul rest in peace.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your kind words. I would now like to invite His Excellency, Federal Minister Alexander Schallenberg, representative of the host country, to address the audience.
Dear Mrs. Amano, dear former President Hans Fischer, dear Directors General, Mr. Executive Secretary, Excellencies, dear family and friends of Yukiya Amano. I would have hoped to be here under happier and better other circumstances. Alas, this is not the case. I stand here before you with deep sorrow. Sorrow about the big loss for all of us by the passing away of Director General Yukiya Amano. But I also stand here before you with great gratitude and admiration for his life, his work, and his legacy. The death of somebody dear to us inevitably affects us, moves us intellectually and emotionally, and makes us think about the things that really matter in life, and also maybe about what we one day might leave behind as a legacy. And Yukiya Amano has left behind a lot. His life was devoted to peace and stability, and to the constant work and service to our global community. And his was not a life only of noble ambition, it was also a life of significant achievement, as we have heard and also seen in the video. And I'm proud to say that Yukiya Amano had a close and strong relationship with Austria, where he spent much of his career. First as a distinguished Japanese diplomat serving at the permanent representation to the international organizations in Vienna from 2005 to 2009. Throughout this time, we got to know him as a diplomat of highest professional standards, who handled all his responsibilities with dedication and true passion. His election in 2009 as head of the International Atomic Energy Agency was a manifestation of the respect and admiration and appreciation he received from the whole diplomatic community and from the member states of the agency. As Director General of the agency, he could pursue his grand vision to contribute to building a world with fewer nuclear weapons, a world with more security and more checks and balances, or simply put, a world with less threat of utter destruction. And in his dedication to this cause, Director Amano was also true to the heritage of his own home country, which has suffered and experienced the horrors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Among the many activities which Amano committed himself to, we will remember him and his work in the realm of the significant impact he had on the negotiation of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Similarly, we are greatly indebted to him for his efforts and achievements during the difficult negotiation process here in Vienna, leading to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. His commitment to this agreement and its full implementation was unwavering and unshakable from day one on. For Amano, it was not a question of whether to do it or not. It was a question of principle, to work tirelessly not only to preserve, but to strengthen the credibility of the agency. As we heard during the video, in his own words, the agency's biggest asset. Dear Mrs. Amano, we can only imagine how difficult this time is for you. Austria has been home to you and to your husband for 14 years. And let me tell you, on the behalf of the Austrian government and the Austrian people, that it always will be. We are forever grateful to you and your husband. Austria mourns the loss of a dear friend, the loss of a partner, and will remember Director General Yukiya Amano as an outstanding diplomat and an outstanding personality. Thank you.
I now invite Mr. Yuri Fedotov, Director General of the United Nations Office in Vienna, to say a few words.
Mrs. Amano, Your Excellency, Dr. Heinz Fischer, Excellencies, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of all my colleagues from the UN Office in Vienna and the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, I offer our deepest condolence to the family, loved ones, and friends of Director General Amano. The UN family in Vienna has lost a valued colleague. Leading the International Atomic Energy Agency is a daunting task in these challenging times. Mr. Amano did his duty with exemplary commitment and determination, working tirelessly for the safe and peaceful use of nuclear energy, for sustainable development, and of course for the better and more secure future for all of us. Mrs. Amano, no words can make up for this terrible loss, but I hope that there is some comfort in knowing that the entire world joins you in mourning the passing of Director General Amano. We will remember Director General Amano for his service and his dedication to strengthening international cooperation so that peace can prevail. And we will do our best to honor his memory by reaffirming our commitment to the goals he worked for throughout his long and distinguished career as a diplomat and international civil servant. Please accept once again my most heartfelt condolences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director General. I now invite His Excellency Mr. Mitsuru Kitano, Ambassador and Resident Representative of Japan, to address the audience.
Mrs. Amano, His Excellency Mr. Heinz Fischer, Mr. Colonel Feruta, Acting Director General of IAEA, Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to address the following words to Director General Yukiya Amano. Director General Amano, I did not expect to be here today saying these words to you. I still cannot believe that you have left us so suddenly. As I look at your photos, I remember the past 5 years working together with you here in Vienna. It also reminds me the 40 years since I first met you as a first-year new diplomat joining the Japanese Foreign Ministry. Much time has passed since then. Director General Amano, you are truly a visionary leader. You are able to recognize the world's trend, identify what many people around the world were looking for, and think about what you could do for that. You are a leader who, through these works, provided a vision and put that into practice. Making nuclear science and technology accessible to many people around the world. This was your vision. This certainly changed the lives of many people. When the outbreak of Ebola fever and Zika virus happened in African and Latin American countries, nuclear technology enabled early diagnosis. When earthquakes occurred in Nepal and Ecuador, nuclear technology helped to identify the status of damage. The Renewal Project, which strengthens the functioning of the research laboratories on nuclear technology, has been supported by many countries, and 36 countries and 5 institutions provided financial assistance. This emphasis on nuclear science and technology has changed the dynamics of the IAEA. Activities in these areas have become one of the mainstreams of the IAEA. Your vision was supported by all countries. Within the IAEA, cooperation has become more common than conflict. Practical cooperation has become more common than political debate. The fact that your motto, Atoms for Peace and Development, has been accepted by many countries clearly demonstrates that you are a visionary leader. Director General Amano, you are an outstanding diplomat. After you passed away, political leaders from different parts of the world sent messages to mourn your death. It is worth noting that these messages also came from countries that are at odds with each other. The IAEA is a technical organization. I remember you said these words often, and I think that is true. At the same time, I have to acknowledge that the paradox by which, in being professional and neutral, the IAEA, the agency, has played an important role in international politics. That is why it is necessary for the IAEA Director General to be a good diplomat. I think this is very much evident if we consider the standing of the IAEA regarding the Iran nuclear issue. It is often said the key to multilateral diplomacy is to make everybody equally unhappy. This is based on the idea that, to the extent that we cannot make countries with different interests equally happy, we have to be satisfied to make everybody equally unhappy. However, hearing the messages by political leaders from different parts of the world after you passed away, this common narrative on multilateral diplomacy sounds somewhat superficial. It is because you are equally trusted by countries with different interests in working in this sensitive field of non-proliferation related to national security, rather than making everybody equally unhappy. You earned the trust of countries with different interests by sticking to professionalism and your beliefs. You exemplify what a good diplomat can be. Director General Amano, you are someone who rarely enjoys life. When you entered the Japanese Foreign Ministry and went to France for language training, the place you chose was Nice, not Paris. You liked the sea. You liked watching the land from the sea, cruising on the sea, and visiting the island. You also loved humor. There was always a lot of laughter around you. I remember you talked about your failure, turning it into a funny story. Even though you were busy or you were under pressure from work, you still had peace in mind and laughter around you. You were a fun person to be with. Director General Amano, when I look at in these photos, I really wish I could spend more time with you. I'm sorry that you have left us too soon. I cannot express my feeling enough, but allow me to conclude my message with the following quote by an author who wrote about visionary leader. I quote, "Many things in life and work are temporary, and nothing remains to last. However, visionary leaders believe that meaning actually does last, and forever. They believe that what they do while they're here matters. They feel that it might even matter beyond their lifetime." Director General Amano, I suppose this rarely was the case with their work and life. I'm deeply saddened that I would never have the chance to talk to you, but I, as a representative of Japan, I'm very much happy and proud that we have come up with Japanese outstanding Director General of IAEA. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. On numerous occasions, DG Amano praised the dedication of IAEA staff and took great pride in our collective achievements. As head of management, I witnessed his efforts to achieve gender equality, promote the highest ethical standards at the workplace, and ensure the well-being for all IAEA staff. He cared deeply about IAEA staff, which he recognized as the IAEA's greatest asset. I now invite the President of the Staff Council, Mr. Imed Zabar, to say a few words.
Mrs. Amano, Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, like all of you here today, I find it almost impossible to accept the loss of Director General Amano. On behalf of the Staff Council, I extend our most sincere condolences to Mrs. Amano and the family in this time of grief and anguish. Of his many admirable qualities, the Director General offered calm and steady leadership. He was genuinely committed to professionalism and had a clear vision of what peace and development entailed. Under his guidance, the agency grew into an organization of excellence. He knew intuitively how to strike an essential balance between the interests of the organization and those of staff. He always ensured the involvement of Staff Council in the consultative process. As Staff Council President, I was regularly invited to attend the annual senior management retreats. On such occasions, he took the opportunity to interact as a team member, regardless of rank or position. Everybody was equal. Nobody was more equal than others. He treated everybody in the like manner. On such occasions, he also displayed a pronounced sense of fair play. Seats were allocated by lot. Table and seat numbers were literally drawn from a hat. At one retreat, he even distributed a booklet. Each page bore the photo of an attendee. Whenever you spoke to another person, you were given a star to stick on the corresponding page. Everybody entered in the spirit of things and amassed stars galore. Reserve and reticence were no more as senior managers talked across departmental divides. The Director General beamed with pleasure as everybody chatted and worked as one. He was intent upon instilling a sense of harmony. the adoption of best practices and efficient use of resources made for contented and proud staff, paving the path towards excellence. To Mr. Amano's mind, if something had to be done, it had to be done right and to the best of one's ability. If the goal was ultimately achieved, one could rightly claim to have participated effectively and made a difference. The Director General was not just a doer, he was an attentive listener. A trait I came to appreciate when I met to discuss staff matters and agree on practical solutions. He understood the importance of engaging with staff and discussing issues of significance on an equal footing. For all his formality, Mr. Amano appreciated the unconventional. His soft manner of speech masked the most perceptive mind and, equally important, a subtle sense of humor. On a very personal level, when the Director General and I had to cut a multi-tiered cake at the agency board commemorating the 60th anniversary of the IAEA, he turned to me with a wry smile and noted sotto voce, "It's almost like a wedding." His nimble wit could not, alas, be captured in those photos. However, many of us can bear testimony to the culture of dialogue and respect he promoted throughout the agency. He was our staunchest advocate. I am proud to have learned a lot from Director General. I am privileged to have known him. I am honored to have worked with him. Death will have no dominion over my memory of him.
DG Amano's unwavering commitment to the agency and its mandate, Atoms for Peace and Development, will always be remembered. We are now going to present a special tribute. And in presenting this, a replica of the IAEA emblem to Mrs. Amano, we recognize DG Amano's outstanding public service and convey the gratitude of the IAEA family. Acting Director General Furuta will present this emblem that symbolizes the mandate of the agency. I kindly invite Mrs. Amano and Acting Director Furuta to join us on the podium. And now, to conclude, I would like to mention that the music we're hearing today was also some of DG Amano's favorite pieces. And additionally, a book of condolences for staff will remain open until 1300 hours today in front of the Boardroom B, M Building. I now thank you for joining us today at the memorial ceremony. Thank you very much.